Good evening. My name is Bruce Rupp. I'm also a Hayes native. Have been teaching school here in Hayes the past 16 years. And if I accidentally tell you to be quiet or shh, that's just instincts. Economics is all about money. Who makes it, how they spend it. It is also about cost, recovering that cost, and making profit. This deal is simply a deceptive transfer of millions of dollars from the pockets of us, ordinary taxpayers, electric customers, to a wealthy wind farm corporation and a few privileged landowners. Make no mistake, green energy is no longer about saving our environment like we'd like to believe. It is simply about making more money for large corporations. This money is hidden in the forms of subsidies and also tax avoidance. In a few minutes I have, I'd like to try to shed some light on the economic pros and cons of this massive wind turbine complex that they're suggesting for our county. I don't have time to go through all of them, but I will go through a few. The fact is, if the government wasn't subsidizing these windmills, no one would be building them. They couldn't afford to, and we couldn't afford to buy the energy. Truth, they aren't wind farms, they're simply tax avoidance farms. Every development project has a cost. Someone has to pay for that. Unfortunately, in this case, it is us. Our tax dollars are being spent to make renewable energy companies very wealthy. In Kansas, for example, there are currently 9 existing policies, acts, or programs that are used as incentives to get companies to build wind turbine complexes, such as one suggested here. The 3 major ones that I'd like to discuss: the federal production tax credit is the first one. This is a tax exemption on all credits and profits for the first 10 years after the wind facility begins operation. If I were to use Gray County as an example for a wind farm, FPL, who is the owner of that, would avoid paying $70 million in the next 10-year span. Not bad profit considering they may donate a few $100,000 a year. The second one, the accelerated cost recovery depreciation. You've already heard how quickly they recover their money. That is because we pay for 65% of their building cost through our tax dollars. Again, in those 6 years, their costs are completely recovered. And if I were to use the Butler County wind farm this time as an example, in those 6 years, not only would they recover their cost, but also beyond recovering those costs, the company would stand to shelter $190 million in profit. In addition to this, because we have federal tax liability savings, which would save them another $66 million in taxes, and because Kansas is so generous and so windy, we offer match that, take state tax liability savings, and award them another $14 million. The third large one is the Kansas property tax exemption. In the state of Kansas, this represents a permanent loss that we would face in this county. The money that we would normally get on taxes for that land would now become exempt for those 35 square miles. This list goes on and on with more tax breaks, grants, low interest loans, etc. And all we're going to do is be paying those costs in our taxes and our electric bills. We don't know all the specifics of the contract that's being offered to Ellis County for our wind turbine complex in our county, but we do know that they are offering a $600,000 annual gift to the county. Very generous considering they stand to make tens of millions of dollars annually. But this amount is based on maximum production. We will never see a maximum production. If we're lucky, maybe 33% production, so this more likely will be $200,000. Well, with that $200,000, you need to start taking away some of the costs we're losing, the tax dollars I just mentioned on the land. More importantly, this is a payment in lieu of taxation. Legally, this is considered a payment without any services being rendered at all. That means that in case of bankruptcy or default, there's no legal recourse for the county because those funds aren't linked to any provisional of any services or goods that we've provided. This is quite simply a bribe that can evaporate the next time this company changes hands, which it just did, or if it goes bust. In contrast, a fair deal for the county would be a proportional tax on every megawatt of power production and sold. That way, if the utility raises the cost of power, and rest assured they will, the county's share would scale with the value of that power. Developers have said they're going to bring income to local businesses. We've shown you picture after picture of local quarries that come with the wind turbine construction. Rock quarries, cement, mobile cement plants. The average maintenance on these windmills is only 1 day per year. Very few permanent jobs are actually created. As for construction, they will bring their own contractors from out of state for the big jobs. They'll use their own semi-drivers to bring them in. APAC will be out of luck because the concrete will come with them. Typically, they even have a mobile trailer encampment for their construction crews to avoid motel costs. Sorry, Jane. I guess the business income for Hays will consist maybe of a few food purchases and some fuel sales. Typically, wind energy deals are not a very picture for the community. This one would be no different. Just like any deal, there are winners and there are losers. This case, the wind company and those landowners that sell out are the winners, while the rest of the citizens of Ellis County would be considered losers. The leaseholder's share of profit is typically only around 3%, while the company stands to make around 90%, largely due to our government being so generous with subsidies and tax breaks. We have heard that taxes pay 65% of the capital cost, that windmills are depreciated so quickly that the company recovers its 35% investment in only 6 years. After that, their concern and their incentive to maintain those windmills is very small. This should be a big concern of yours and the whole community, because that will certainly retain our interest in their maintenance, because we'll have to live with them for the rest of our lives. The biggest losers are the taxpayers. We will be forced, because of our tax dollars, to subsidize these windmills, whether we want them or not, and electric customers will be forced to pay higher utility bills for this so-called green energy. Health risks, noise pollution, decreased property values, wildlife destruction, loss of property tax dollars, and probably my personal biggest concern, the destruction of the scenic beauty that I have enjoyed since childhood living here, and that I pray I continue to see for the rest of my life. These are all very real costs that must be factored into any analysis of the benefits of wind energy generation. The lack of any tangible benefits for our community when all these real costs are considered is the reason I oppose the industrial development project so close to Hays. Again, thank you for taking the time to come this evening and support us. May God bless you.